Welcome into a new episode of the Bobcast. This is Matt Ambrose, and we'll kick things off here on this Monday with men's lacrosse. Head coach Steve Gartelman. Coach, you move up to 3-0 on the season. A win against Chestnut Hill on the road, 10-8 the final for your guys over the weekend. Slow start to that game, but you're able to bounce back late and come away with the victory. What were your overall thoughts from the game on Saturday?
Yeah, we've got to find a way to consistently start a little bit better and maintain it. We've shown a track record now in 3 games that we get better as the game goes. That's a great trait for us to have. We love that. Don't want to lose that. But we're starting way too low and having to climb way too high to find some wins. So we're working harder than we need to. The guys are aware that we have better lacrosse coming. We got to find kind of that level ground. So we took a little extra time getting out there earlier, trying to make the bus trip a little bit more manageable, doing these day trips. So we had a little extra time on the turf, which I think definitely helped to get us warmed up and start in a better spot. But really, it's just finding that ability for us to bring the juice right away and come out and dodge a little more aggressively, communicate a little more intensely on defense, just all those little things. But we went from shots, turnovers, ground balls, all the stats that we wanted to see in our game increased first, second, third, fourth. So it was a great trend, but way too deep of a hole. And sometimes we're not going to be able to get ourselves out of there. We have to be very realistic that we can't always save ourselves. We have to try to put ourselves in a spot that we don't have to save ourselves every time. So that's the mindset right now. The guys are aware of it, and they're talking the right stuff. They're saying a lot of stuff I want to say before I even get to say it. So I'm very proud of them to be that self-aware.
A bit of a hectic lead up to this game. Of course, you were originally scheduled to play St. Thomas Aquinas on Saturday. That game got moved on, I believe it was Tuesdays when it was officially moved, and then all of a sudden you're playing Chestnut Hill. So you have a little over a week of preparation for St. Thomas, and then hold on a minute, we have to switch and now get ready for Chestnut Hill. What was that like, kind of taking that week beforehand to kind of, I guess, dial it back a little bit with the 2 weeks off and get ready for St. Thomas Aquinas, and then have to quickly make that change and be like, oh, wait, we got to play Chestnut Hill here in 4 days?
Yeah. It's something we expected to happen eventually. We definitely didn't have a blueprint for it,
Yeah.
but definitely expected to happen some point in the season. We're going to have a change of plans, and we have to adjust. And Chestnut Hill also had to do the same thing on a short week, and didn't quite have the flip flop, but they had hey, all of a sudden we're playing somebody. So we all kind of went through the same thing. But for us, it was the week before where we didn't have a game. It was really focusing on us. Let's get back to really honing in our defensive fundamentals, really honing in our offensive chemistry, and just dialing this stuff up to make it a better version of us by the time we get to our next game. So we did, as a coaching staff, prep. We had the scout going. We had a lot of stuff that we were building into the next week for our preparations for St. Thomas Aquinas. So we actually went through Monday thinking St. Thomas Aquinas, Tuesdays individuals thinking St. Thomas Aquinas. We're doing drills that we're kind of building towards that game plan. And then the change happened. And as we start watching film for Chestnut Hill, we were lucky. We were lucky that the offenses lined up somewhat similarly, that they worked similar tendencies and similar sets. Defensively, similar concepts on how they wanted to help their ball carrier or ball defender and how they wanted to slide and recover. So we put a lot of work in, Coach Williams and myself, trying to get this game plan up and running and give the guys the best they could, or best we could for them to be ready. But there's also a little bit of luck that lined up for Stack and Chestnut Hill having similar concepts. So we're fortunate to have that happen, and just nature of the business this year that you got to be ready for anything. So Coach Williams did a great job getting the scout together for that side of the ball. And again, fortunately, it was some luck of the draw that lined up that way and made the week a bit more manageable. And the guys soaked it up. They definitely listened.
Find yourself down 5-1 in the second quarter. 2 of those 5 goals for Chestnut Hill to start the game came on man-up opportunities. What were they doing out of the gate that gave you guys trouble?
Their ball movement was really, really good. When you're man down, there's obviously one extra person out there. You got to leave somebody available. So we were trying to pick the right guy to leave open, make that the toughest pass, and their ball movement made it really tough for us to do what we wanted to do. They run a few different plays that made us prepare for a lot, and they run each one of those sets really, really clean. So they were pulling us, throwing back, they're throwing double cuts, and it was just really tough for us to cover both of those cutters with how quickly they were moving the ball. So I think if we just had a little bit more of a urgent communication, we could have kind of made a few more stops, but really tip of the cap to them. Their man up was really, really playing sharp.
2 key goals for you to end that first half, and in a half where offense was hard to come by for you to get those 2 goals going into the locker room where you're able to regroup. How important was that for just the demeanor of the team, getting that rest and then coming back out to play the final half?
Yeah, we talk a lot about the last 2 minutes of every quarter. We want that to be kind of a swing moment for our program. We call it the dig-in phase. That's where defense, they try not to let up a goal in those last 2 minutes. Offense, find a way to get one. If we can do that 4 times or 3 times, that's a 3 or 4 goal swing in our favor in theory. So that's something that we talk about a lot. So when the guys are able to pull that off, get a stop, go down, get a goal, do it again late in the game, or late in the half, I should say, that builds the confidence and momentum that we can do this, we can work through it, and it shrinks that gap a little bit. When you're talking about a 2-goal difference in lacrosse, it is a very calm environment in most situations. Like 2 goals can happen in a matter of seconds. 2 face-offs, 2 goals, it doesn't matter. When you're talking about 4 goals, that's a whole different conversation about maybe the time is starting to get, guys a little bit revved up, a little bit tight to their stick. So it was a big difference of mindset going in where we achieved things that we talk about a lot, and it was hey, it's not going well, but we did that well, and that can make a difference in the game in those last little bits. So we were able to talk about that, build some confidence and momentum, and kind of see some guys playing well. We made some changes to the personnel, brought in our quote-unquote second attack, Austin Sipes, Bubba Love, Jason Clinton, and those guys just played outstanding. They were itching for their opportunity. First group was playing good. The second group came in and just had a different, energy to them. They were kind of our 6th man kind of mindset where they came in and just revved us up, got us a couple goals. We went back to them to start the second half. They kept doing it, brought that first, quote-unquote, first unit back in, and they kind of saw what was working, and it really just picked up momentum. And like we said, first, second, third, fourth, all improved. I think those guys were a big part of it, just bringing us really positive energy.
That dig-in phase you talked about looks like it carried over through the second half as well. You only allowed 3 goals to Chestnut Hill in the second half. You outscored them 7-3 in order to propel you to that victory. What adjustments, what was discussed at halftime that really changed the mindset and changed the play out on the field for you guys?
Yeah, I think there's really one in the ride, one in the defense, one in the offense that was kind of like that's where it really started to take momentum.
Sure.
On defense, it was we were doing some off-ball switches. We were trying to run less and switch our matchups, and they were moving us around a lot with that. We're moving themselves around and confusing us a lot with that because they were running a good offensive set. So we stopped moving, doing that off-ball zone concept. We started to go a little bit more man-to-man in the off-ball stuff, which let us pressure more. Once we were able to pressure more, they weren't getting as many hands-free opportunities, and we were feeling a lot more comfortable that we were trusting what we saw. Because when they're playing that little zone concept, sometimes it's like, do I have him or does he have him? And it got a little confusing because of what they were doing offensively. Simplified our defense so we can be more aggressive, and that went a long way. Let Jack see a lot of good shots at that point. He made 17 saves, I think. So the defense, it's not about denying shots. It's about denying good shots and letting him take the shots that Jack wants to see or Kev wants to see or goalie wants to see. So I think that's what we did in the second half was get a lot more of the shots that we wanted to see so that Jack could do his part and make stops. We were playing aggressive on that side. On the ride, they were trying to suck us to one side, then throw the big overpass, and they were getting some success in the first half. So we adjusted our attack a little bit and asked them to help in that area so that the middies can do some different stuff. And that was a big change. I don't think it actually failed a ton of clears, but they had to work a lot harder to get the ball into the defensive end, which once they get down to the defensive end, we made that other adjustment and can layer up the pressure from the ride and the pressure on our defense, and that went a long way to causing more turnovers. And then on the offensive side, we started to take the easy pass. We started to leave the crease alone, started to take more of those adjacent passes, and then we were shooting better shots. This was a good goalie we saw. He was a big guy who took up a lot of nets, so we had to hit low edges, shooting some bounces, and Jeff Stalling came in the third quarter, I believe it was, and absolute textbook bouncer, beautiful offensive set. So we started to just do things that were more aggressive on our defensive side and more fundamentally sound a little bit less aggressive on offense, but working the machine gun mentality a little bit where it's dodge, pass, dodge, pass, dodge. Just taking some of those easy ones to get hands free, and it started to work out. The guys started to really put it together.
You brought up Jack Marks and the great day he had. It's now back-to-back games in which he's really performed well in between the pipes. He is, I'll get to him and then Paul Rupert in a second as well, but first with Jack, you have some guys on this team that are rewriting record books within this program. Jack Marks in particular, tied for the program record in goalkeeper wins with Tyler Haynes, 32 of them now. He's also 59 saves away from breaking the program record that Haynes has as well.
It's incredible.
In saves. What does that say about just Jack and what he's meant to this team over his time here.
Yeah, he's been a career guy. He's been contributing for so long. As a goalie, you tend to view yourself, I got to be a leader somehow, some way. So he's been in that role since his first year. Now as a fifth-year guy, second-year captain, he's doing a great job of continuing to make stops. It's his job, but he is almost like another coach out there. He's a great manager of minds, and he's transformed himself from a revved-up, guy who's a competitor, still is a competitor, but now he's a competitor in the sense that he can be level-minded and talk to his guys, make saves. A goal goes in, he owns it, or he asks somebody to do something different. He's just so mature these days. Always been a great ball stopper, and he's evolved into being just the catalyst, the pillar of our defense. The guys listen to him. The guys know if something happens, he's going to make a stop. And he owns his mistakes. He owns his part. 'Cause he had a few clears that didn't go so well, and he's talking about restringing the stick and stuff. So we'll get that dialed in. And I know he's not a guy who's going to let that linger for any longer than it needs to. But there's a few clears that went south, out of Jack's stick. Ball comes down in transition. He steps up and he makes a big play after the turnover. So just a guy who's doing his part and then some in the cage, really mature in how he's going about his business and helping our other goalies, along the way as well. We have a great goalie office. If you call it a quarterback room in football, it could be a goalie room in lacrosse. But a great group of guys that love each other but compete. So Kev Ruther, Mitch Meckley, Chris Savani, they're all competing to keep Jack on his toes. Jack doesn't do as well as he does unless people are challenging him behind him to make sure that he stays honest. And they're so balanced in how they go about it. They compete, but they love each other and help each other out. So that comes from Jack, in my opinion, to trickle down all the way through those guys. And if you're making 15-plus saves in multiple games, you're on track to do some special stuff as a tender. So we love what he's doing.
And how about Paul Rupert getting to the 100-goal milestone? He's third all-time, or third in program history in goals right now, with now at 101, scoring twice on Saturday. What does it mean for you to watch a guy like Paul hit that milestone?
Yeah, it's been great to see his evolution and to see him, from a goal scorer to a polished lacrosse player. He's always been the guy who puts the ball in the net. He's always been a guy who can create with the ball in the stick. He's getting off-ball action. He's riding his tail off. He's getting ground balls. So he's doing all those other things in addition to scoring goals. 100-plus goals is outstanding, but cannot define Paul Rupert. He does so much more than just score goals. So we want to make sure we emphasize that because he had a great day. Slow start for everybody. I think he won a few back in those first quarters that he's known to kind of put away. But he learned and adjusted as the game went. And once that second half came about, he was another level. He came out all revved up, like we said. He kind of got his feet underneath him off of the bus. And to see him dodge, create, and go for it, it was something that all the guys wanted. The guys wanted to run out there and grab the lacrosse ball for him, pull out of the cage, write 100 on it. So it was very aware. The guys love Paul. We love Paul. So it's something that we're really happy for him to be able to do this and counting. It's not over yet. We still want to see him do everything we need to do to win games. But if he can climb those record books, we'll be so proud and so pumped for him because he deserves it. He's out there all the time shooting on his own. He's on the wall ball all the time with him and Mike Sipes, his roommate, just constantly working. Those guys always are putting in some extra time. So it pays off. It's not just because he's good. It's because he works too.
Well, Coach, busy week for you. You got Malloy and Alderson Broadus this week, but another great win for you on Saturday. You're 3-0 now, still undefeated at D2, so that's something certainly to be proud of. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next up here on the Bobcast, we're talking softball with head coach Bill Vasco. Coach, doubleheader sweep for you this weekend, your first MEC games of the season, and a busy week for you with 6 games all at home, Shepherd, Notre Dame, and AB coming to town this weekend. But first of all, just finally being able to get back on your home field for the first time since late April of 2019. You have sophomores on this team that were playing their first home game on Saturday. How did that feel to finally get back on the field at Bobcat Field?
It felt really good. It's been a long wait to play at home. Being able to open up here finally as a Division II program and also get started as a Mountain East participant. We had a lot of anticipation for all of those things last year that was put on hold. So obviously it was really nice to be able to do all of that, and then to come out and perform and pick up 2 wins was great as well, especially the way both games turned out to come back and after not doing a lot in the first game for the majority of the game, to come back and pull out a win there, and then, a tough battle in game two, on both sides, and to be able to pull that out. I just thought the team did really well, and I thought we were a little bit nervous, obviously in the first game coming out, even though we had already played some games, just to be back home and in front of fans, and to, it's not just playing on the home field, but all of the preparations that it takes to play a home game and everything. It's just a lot different environment than it is traveling. So just really proud of the team for coming out and picking up 2 wins.
Yeah, let's start with that game one. You touched on it with the come from behind victory. You're down 4-0 going into the 6th inning, and D&E's pitcher Jenna Evans hadn't allowed a hit yet to that point. And then a Sydney Thibault bunt single gets it started, 6 runs in the 6th, and you end up winning 6-4. Going into that inning and going into the bottom of the 6th, what was the message, or what was the mindset really for the team going into that turn at the plate, knowing that the pitcher in the circle for D&E, Evans, was pretty on point all day long up to that point?
I mean, we really wanted to do whatever it took just to get some base runners on, and then, actually apply some pressure to their defense a little bit and make them work. I thought their pitcher did a really good job of keeping us in check, and I mean, kudos to Sid for starting things off with the bunt for the base hit, and she actually approached me before that inning and asked if it was okay to try and bunt. I was like, I don't care what it takes. I just said we need to get somebody on base. If you look out there and you see that the defense is giving you that opportunity, go for it. And she did a great job to get on and to start the rally, and everyone kind of picked things up from there and broke through a little bit. And the big thing was that despite being down and being no hit, I didn't think that our energy level had ever decreased. We were still going out there battling every inning, and then when we finally broke through, I thought we finally relaxed, and the energy level picked up more from there and kind of carried us through into that win and then into the next game. So it was just pretty awesome, and it was, I think we batted around that inning, but it was like kind of like, we're being no hit, we're down 4-0, and then after that inning, I looked at Coach Shock, I was like, what just happened?
It was like all of a sudden you find yourself up. It was very quick.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Thibault. She got the rally started with the bunt hit. She also started in the circle for you, went the first 4+ innings before Emily Talbert came on and did pretty well in relief. She got into some trouble, or she inherited a runner at first and then walked the batter to face first and second with nobody out. But she managed to get her way out of that jam, and then eventually was able to end the game with her in the circle. What was your evaluation of Emily coming in to close out that game?
I thought she did a great job. Like you mentioned, coming in a tough situation and having a walk, but then working out of it, and then the team coming through and giving you the lead and being able to go out there and shut it down, I think was big for her, and will hopefully instill some confidence in her to continue to do those kind of things when she gets the opportunities. So, and Sid had a pretty decent start on the mound. I think Coach Shock's going to talk a little bit with all the pitchers about, walks, especially walks that start off an inning. That's kind of what hurt Sid a little bit there, to allow D&E to get a jump start. But, overall, I thought our pitching was really well the entire weekend, and has been great all year. But just to follow back up, I thought Emily did a good job of coming into that situation and keeping things at bay, and then shutting it down once we got the lead.
You mentioned that pitching, and it was obviously highlighted by Shauna Leonard in Game 2. 14 strikeouts for her. That's the most in a 7-inning game for Frostburg since 2006. What allowed her to have that kind of success? What was really working for her?
I thought, for the most part, I thought she did a really good job of hitting her spots on a regular basis. There weren't too many pitches, at least from my observation, where it looked like she was way off. She kept them off balance by, mixing locations. Did a much better job this game of working inside against batters, which has, been a point of emphasis with all of our pitchers, is to come inside a little bit more. and not being afraid to get batters off the plate a little bit. Her changeup was working really well, and fooled some batters. So, and the big thing is, I think, as we get into the flow of the season and play games on a more regular basis, I just thought her stamina and approach to the game and how she wanted to kind of take control was a little bit better as well. Like, it felt like we got into a little bit of a flow and rhythm. Obviously, when you're getting lots of outs and strikeouts, that makes it a little easier to get into that rhythm and flow. But, I just thought that overall, she looked a lot more comfortable out there, in my opinion. Not that she wasn't uncomfortable before, but she really settled in and then just kind of took control and never let off the gas at all the entire time, and kept hitting great spots to keep them off balance. And I thought they looked like they didn't have an answer for anything that she was doing. So when you can mix in a lot of different pitches and hit your spots like that to really take control, puts you in the driver's seat as a pitcher.
This is now back-to-back really shutouts for her. She had the shutout last weekend against Salem, and then, of course, the performance this past Saturday. 5 base hits combined in those 2 outings, back-to-back complete games for her. And it seems like we saw this a bit from her last year in the few games you played when she was a first year, and now in her sophomore season. It seems like really early on in her college career, she seems to be hitting a stride and being more comfortable in the circle for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing for not only her but us as a team is that after only playing 12 games last year, we've had so limited opportunities to play as a team against competition other than ourselves. And in my opinion, that experience is what makes you better. It helps you find out where do you actually need to work on things and get better, not only on the mound but defensively, hitting, base running, and everything. We're in games right now, like you said, our sophomores are still almost like freshmen, and our freshmen are going into games without ever having played any other college games, where they would have had maybe 8 games under their belt in the fall. So there are things happening in games that our kids are totally unprepared for right now that we haven't had an opportunity to work on in practice. So, last year to end up after 12 games where I felt like, again, Shauna was getting into a better flow as we continued on, being shut down, not playing fall games, and now it's like you got to reestablish that rhythm, because no matter how much you pitch live against your own batters in practice or in inter-squad scrimmages, it just doesn't give you the same feel that it does going against competition when the adrenaline is really pumping and there's pressure put on you and situations are coming up that you haven't really covered in practice. So to me, where we are right now is we're picking up where we were at the end of 2020 and kind of just developing on from there. Not to say that we haven't improved, because we obviously have gotten a lot better since the season ended last year, but getting back into the flow of playing actual games against competition and understanding what that feels like, and in the moment making decisions, that, again, maybe you haven't covered in practice, and then going back and reviewing those things when they do come up, and then next time it happens, we know how to better handle that. So that goes for everybody, but I totally agree. Like, she was doing well at the end of last year, now has kind of gotten back into that rhythm, and looking forward to continue to see her improvement on the mound.
Now, one area, of course, in Game 1, I guess you could say it's similarly with Game 1 and Game 2. The offense took a bit to get going in Game 1. Of course, we talked about the 6-run inning. Game 2, all you needed was 1 run, but you did leave 9 runners on base, 2 runners each in the first, third, fifth, and sixth innings. Only it was able to manage 2 base hits in the game, but still to leave 9 runners on base. How do you correct that moving into the games this week?
I think it's, what we're going to attempt to do is to keep replicating those situations in practice to the best of our ability. Our players kind of understand that that's been an area where we want to improve upon, not only in practice but just the discussions that we've had, and to be more aware of when we're in a game, when those opportunities come up, our players definitely are much more aware of that because of the things that we've talked about with them. Um, it's just a matter of still, we've tried some different lineups, finding the right people in those situations that when batters are on, understanding that, it doesn't have to always be something like an extra base hit or anything like that to drive those runners in. It just needs to be, it can be a sacrifice fly, it can be a ground ball that's the other way. Just getting the ball in play and more opportunities to move runners up, I think it would be a good starting point for us. I mean, it feels really good to know how many runners we're getting on base. So that's a good start. But, obviously, even though it's still early in the year, that is one area where I think where we can have the most improvement is, learning how to take advantage of those opportunities and understanding as a batter what you may need to do versus the pitcher that you're facing to advance those runners a little bit more. The other thing is too, like, especially that game too, we had runners on and we had a base running mistake in the one inning, and we didn't run a play properly on the sign that was called later in the game. So there are a couple of mental mistakes there that are still kind of nagging at us. And again, those are just things where situation-wise that, are only going to really come up against another opponent when you're playing, and we got to work to keep getting better and understanding how those things impact the game overall when we make those mistakes. So I think we'll see a lot of improvement on those mental kind of things. And then, it's not always the physical thing as a batter either when you have runners in scoring position. Again, it's the pressure and the stress, being in those situations and us handling that a little bit better. And again, not trying to do too much, just doing your job and understanding, especially with less than 2 outs. If we have a runner on third, like we need something in play that's to the outfield. That's all you need to do and to get a run across, because every run matters. I think our pitchers are going to do a great job to minimize the amount of opportunities the other team has. So it's not like we need to score a bunch of runs, but we do need to do a better job than what we did this past weekend.
You're still able to get the 2 wins. You're on a 4-game win streak now, back-to-back doubleheader sweeps against Salem and D&E. But a busy week for you with the 6 games, 2 against Shepherd on Wednesday, and then Notre Dame and Alderson Broaddus this weekend, all at home. How do you carry that momentum from these last 4 games and keep it going this week?
The first thing is to come out and work to get a little bit better in practice today and tomorrow. Having a midweek non-conference game gives us an opportunity to go in and maybe do some different lineups and those kind of things to give some people some opportunities. And Shepherd's a really good team. It's going to be a really tough test for us to really see where we're at, and hopefully, be able to go out and compete well with them, and that will launch us kind of into this weekend as we go back into Mountain East play, with 2 home doubleheaders this weekend against North Division opponents. That it's early in the year, but it's important right now. You look at what happened over this past weekend, and we're the only team in our division right now that came out of things unscathed right now, and it'd be really nice to keep that momentum going and putting ourselves in a really good position after this weekend. So, we just got to go out and it doesn't matter who we play. We just got to worry about getting better a little bit every day in practice and continue to improve the knowledge of our players in game situations. And, as new things come up in those game situations, we continue to learn and get better and develop more confidence as well. Coming out of this weekend, I think that was the big thing. Our players were probably really uncertain against, or about Mountain East play and our opponent and everything. Everybody's going to be new to us. Our players haven't seen these teams before, so they're, not always going to know what they're coming into, but being able to start 2-0 in conference play at least gives us a little bit of confidence. Hey, we can do this, and I'm real excited about, to see how this week transpires against a tough Shepherd team, and then 2 more Mountain East doubleheaders at home.
Well, Coach, great start to MEC play and on a bit of a winning streak now, and best of luck to you as you ramp up some more games this week.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Next up here on the Bobcast, I have football head coach Delane Fitzgerald with me, coming off a 25-19 defeat on the road on Saturday at Notre Dame. You drop your record to 1-1 on the year, and back on the road this weekend, you're at West Liberty this Saturday night. Coach, this was a tough Notre Dame team, of course, at the top of the MEC a season ago, and a team that put up 70 last week against West Liberty, and you were able to hold them to 25 in this game. I'm not a big moral victories guy. I'm not sure if you are as well, but how proud are you, or what's your takeaway from this game? Only staying in it for the most part, and having a chance to win at the end of the game as well.
Yeah, we're playing grown men football, and our players are between 18 and 23 years old, and Notre Dame's players are between 18, and I think they got some 26, 27-year-olds up there playing now. But there are no moral victories. So you get on a bus and you go up there and you either win or lose. Hey, rough trip. We put the kids on a bus at 6:30 a.m., sat on a bus for 5.5 hours, got off the bus and got dressed and played. Didn't put the young men in the best of situations, and we didn't have any choice with that one. But if you're looking for the young men to have been put in that situation and get off the bus and play as hard as they did, a lot of grit and a lot of toughness. So, and we know that about our players. We are as good or better than anybody in the Mountain East Conference, and we know that, and our players know that. We've got to put them in a better situation that they can play their best and perform their best. But our guys gave it all they had on Saturday, and we just didn't do quite enough to get the victory.
Notre Dame's running back Tobias Taylor, he rips off an early 47-yard touchdown, scores again at the start of the second. You look up at that scoreboard, and early stages of the second, you're down 14-0. What's going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, Tobias, and it seems like a long time ago, but Tobias 6 or 8 years ago committed to Virginia Tech, and he was a 4-star recruit out of Richmond, Virginia in high school, and so some things happened that have kept him from playing Division I football, but he rushed for 2,000 or 3,000 yards at Virginia Union the last couple of years, transfers into Notre Dame into a good situation. I'd like to play running back behind all those big offensive linemen they have, but the young man's a good football player, and again, he's 26, 27 years old and does a nice job for them. He's a good player, and then it got accentuated by the fact that we didn't tackle very well. We've got to fix gap integrity on our defense. 2 straight weeks we've been bad at it. We're not good at block destruction right now. We take blocks on down the middle of people, and we've got to learn how to pick a side and pick a shoulder and run through that shoulder and defeat blocks, and then we have to tackle at the end of it.
In the backfield for you, though, Josh Maxwell got the majority of the carries. Ended up with 94 yards on the ground in those 18 carries. Had a costly fumble, though, early in the fourth quarter. That at the end of it cost you 5 points with the safety that ensued right after. But is Josh someone we can kind of expect to get a lot of carries as these games go on? We saw him get a little bit of work in the Wheeling game, and then, as I said, the majority of the carries on Saturday. Is he going to be kind of put more in that feature back role as we move down the season?
Yeah, no, the answer is no. We have 3 or 4 running backs that we like, and we think they're pretty even talent-wise and pretty even from a mental and physical toughness standpoint. What's going to happen is we're going to go into the game and we're going to rotate running backs, and whoever gets hot starts getting the carries. We were running duo on Saturday, and Josh got hot running a duo, so we just stuck with him for a while. You're right. The fumble was really, really costly. We had went 7 quarters, which is an accomplishment with no turnovers, and then decided in the fourth quarter we were going to turn it over 3 times, and it ended up hurting us real, real bad. But we've got to fix those turnovers. And on the other side is our defense has got to start creating some turnovers.
How about at the quarterback position? You rolled 2 quarterbacks again this week with Chad Palmer getting the start, but it was Graham Walker that took the majority of the snaps in this game and did a pretty good job. What was your evaluation of the signal callers from this past weekend?
Yeah, they were better than they were the first week. Matt, we were better all the way around than we were the first week. Yeah. the biggest improvement in any team, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, any team, is from that game 1 to game 2, because you can't simulate the competition speed of another college or university in practice. So once they've seen it in a game, then you get a big jump from game 1 to game 2, and that's what we did. Our coaching staff and our players, we improved last week. But then when you talk about the quarterbacks, they seem to alternate who's playing well and who's not playing well. Neither one of them seem to separate from each other. Now, Chad's a fifth-year senior, and Graham's a second-year freshman. So that would be the difference in the two right now. But we plan on continuing to rotate, and whoever has the hot hand at the end is going to play. Graham got the hot hand in the first half. We went into halftime. He was 9 of 10, so he got to start in the second half, and that's the way we're going to do it until someone shows us that they're just clearly better than the other one at the quarterback and running back position. That's the way it's going to be.
Someone who's really shown up in the passing game as far as receiving goes has been Kyle Belak. Back-to-back 100-yard receiving games for him. It was him and Chad Palmer that linked up for a 49-yard connection in the fourth quarter of that game. He caught another touchdown as well. And he's been someone that has come in and just added more depth to this receiving core that already had lots of it. What have you seen from Kyle and how he's performed both leading up to games and then once he's out there on Saturday playing?
Yeah, he had an added depth. He stretched the top of that wide receiving core because right now he's playing better than some of the others. He practices a little harder than some of our other older receivers. Now he's a handful during the week. So that makes me think that I've got a fourth child sometimes during the week because I spend a lot of time on Kyle Belak. But come Saturdays, he's a really good football player. He likes to play football and plays really, really hard.
Defensively, again, Dylan Culpin leads your team with 9 tackles. He was tied for the team lead in the Wheeling game with 9 as well. What has he in particular been doing at the linebacker position that's caught your eye?
Yeah, good family, good young man, really good GPA. Dylan has done everything we've asked him to do in his 3 years on this campus, and he continues to do that. Does he have some things he has to improve on? Yes, he's got to use more hip explosions, got to be faster on the field. He has to learn how to defeat blocks. If he would have defeated all the blocks and made the tackles he was supposed to make on Saturday, he'd have 15 tackles instead of whatever he finished up with. We still think that Dylan's best football is ahead of him, but really, really happy to have him in our football program. Anybody in this world that has kids, they want their kids to be exactly the way he is on and off the field.
How about elsewhere defensively? We saw Carl Igwe get a couple or 2.5 more tackles for loss. He forced the fumble in the late in the game in the fourth quarter that resulted in the safety that kept you guys in the game. I know there were some things on the defensive end you wanted to be a little bit better. You touched on that gap integrity that has been lacking the last couple of games, or the first 2 games, I should say. But looking at Carl in particular, what did you see from him coming off the edge?
Yeah, Carl continues to flash, which is what he's done for the last 2.5 years. Flash and make some plays. Needs to be more consistent. But Carl works hard during the week, and then he flashes on Saturdays. The overall defensive line is where we have to be better, and we haven't been great the first 2 weeks. So we lap gap integrity. Matt, we play with extremely high pad level. O-line and D-line playing with high pad level, and our coaching staff's got to get that fixed this week. We're capable of being great up front, and we're just not great right now. We've got to get some things fixed there. But Carl continues to flash, and there's other players on the D-line that make a play every once in a while. But the gap integrity and the pad level and us defeating blocks has to improve.
You talk about how you want to be good up front, and particularly that front 7 was busy this game because this is a Notre Dame team that doesn't put the ball in the air all that much. They're a ground and pound team. They did it last year when they came here to Frostburg, and they had Jaleel McLaughlin in the backfield. Now they have Tobias Taylor in the backfield, and they run the ball a lot still. That hasn't changed, even with their new head coach, Mickey Mental, who was a coordinator last year, now the head coach of this Notre Dame team. But how much does a game like this, with so much being put into that front 7 and needing to stop the run, how much will that help this team getting that kind of exposure and I guess in-game reps with a lot of handoffs, a lot of running plays? How does that help this team as it goes down the final 3 games of the season.
Yeah, Matt, I'll correct you on one little part. Notre Dame wants to throw the ball more than they've thrown it in the past. And Octavia Strong, our cornerback, knocked their quarterback out. He knocked their quarterback into this week. It's somewhere middle way through about the first quarter, into the first quarter, on a really good hit. If that hadn't happened, they would have thrown the ball 20, 25 times more than they threw it. When and I forget the young man's last name is Brim, but their quarterback's a 3-year starter.
Brim, yep.
Chris Brim, 3-year starter and a good player. When he went out and they brought the backup quarterback in, that's when they kind of went to the run game. Had that not happened, they would have ended up, if they'd have run 70 plays on Saturday, it'd been 35 run, 35 pass. So it kind of changed the complexion of the game when they lost their starting quarterback. Anytime you get a chance to play football, because there's not enough football being played in this world, anytime you get a chance to play football, it helps the young men and it helps them improve going forward. Now, Matt, we're not looking. We're not even looking at next fall, so
Yeah.
we're looking at who our next opponent is and who our next game is, and yes, we have to improve during the week in practice, but the future for us is right now.
West Liberty is on deck for you. You are on the road at them on Saturday for the back end of back-to-back road games for you in this shortened season. Close game against them last year, but obviously a new year here, new players on both sides. What challenges do they present as you start looking at their film and scouting them ahead of Saturday night?
Yeah, Notre Dame wasn't as good against them as they looked, and then West Liberty isn't as bad as they looked against Notre Dame in the first week. And now they've had 2 weeks. They've had 2 weeks to get prepared. They've had 2 weeks to get lathered up about how bad they played in the first game. We're going to get a 3-hour battle out of West Liberty. Jack Allison's their starting quarterback. Jack Allison started some games at the University of Florida. He started some games at West Virginia, and now he's going to start against us this Saturday night. Good football player, good quarterback. You know, we've got to solve that riddle. They do a nice job in the throw game. They do a nice job in the pass game, and if you don't get a pass rush and if you don't cover who you're supposed to, they expose you for big touchdowns. They did it to us a couple of times last year. But good staff. One of my good friends is Dan Hopkins, who is the offensive line coach, strength and conditioning coordinator there, and I know they'll be prepared on Saturday night, and Roger Wale will have the kids ready to go. Hey, their home opener for the spring, we will get a spirited West Liberty bunch on Saturday night.
Coach, best of luck to you this weekend heading to West Liberty. Big-time matchup on Saturday night. Thanks for joining us on the Bobcast.
Appreciate you having me. Go Bobcats.
Next up here on the Bobcast is head coach Taylor Sindel from women's lacrosse. And, Coach, first win of the year for you this past weekend, a 19-11 victory over Wilmington, and 2 games for you this week. You host AB and Notre Dame for some more MEC play this week, or starting MEC play, I should say. But you were in control for the vast majority of that game on Saturday, the win over Wilmington. Just want your overall thoughts from the victory.
Definitely excited to finally get that first win. Hopefully we can keep that rolling, but I think we saw a lot of really good things, and the things that we need to fix are apparent. So, we're just going to get after that this week. I think shooting, we definitely need to put some more balls in the back of the net. We had 56 shots and only scored 19 goals, so definitely need to fix that, and I think clean up our transition a little bit, and we should be good to go. We actually put in a new offense and a new defense the day before the game on Saturday, so we're really happy with how they played and how they executed, and I think just with more practice it'll look even better.
Got off to a great start in that game, a 7-2 lead for you early in the game. 6 different goal scorers for the first 7 goals. Anna Kearney was the only one scoring multiple goals to start that game. 2 of her eventual 4 that she scored in that game. How great was it to see not only that you had that balanced attack with multiple goal scorers early on or throughout the game, but to see that early on have that many players have such an impact?
That's really exciting for us. I mean, a lot of these kids overall have been putting in a lot of extra work outside of practices, and so it was great to see that kind of finally come to fruition. But, we were really excited to see that we have 7 threats on offense instead of 1 or 2 go-to players. I mean, obviously Anna and Steph, and a lot of our girls had multi-goal, great games, but it's good to know that if someone's not having a good day, we have 6 other people that can step up.
In that game, Stephanie King was everywhere. She had 6 goals, 11 shots on goal, 5 ground balls, a caused turnover in that game. And it really seemed like she came out ready to play.
She did. We had a conversation with her, I want to say last week, that was kind of like, we really need you to step up. And she took that and she really ran with it. She had 6 goals, but she could have probably had as many as she wanted, honestly. She was really, really working hard that game. Super proud of her.
Let's look at the Walsh game as well on Thursday, because it was a little unique with the fog delay, I guess we'll call it, midway through that first half that stopped the game for about 45 minutes. What was it like dealing with that? I mean, you're out there on the field, and all of a sudden, about 20 minutes into the game, you got to stop and go back to the locker room, come back out, get warmed up again. What was that like?
I honestly didn't even expect it when the refs called us over. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's just not something I was ever prepared for. But honestly, I think we needed it because we came out very, very flat in the beginning. And then once we came out of that break, we started to kind of get it together a little bit. But we had already dug ourselves into too deep a hole, unfortunately.
Well, late in that game, you mentioned like how it kind of changed the momentum, and you guys were charging back. You were down 11-4 at one point in that second half, but you brought it back to within 3 late in that second half. You had a few goals from Cami Schneidwin. The offense really seemed like it was starting to click. What changed? I mean, really, what helped you get back into that game? What was it that was a difference from the beginning of that game to the later part?
I think they realized that, it's not over till it's over. And once we kind of just got 1 or 2 goals in the back of the net, I think they saw that, wow, we really can take control of this game. It's just unfortunate that we had a slow start and that we had so many cards. That's what really killed us in that game.
Goalkeepers was something you were kind of going back and forth with through the first 2 games. You started Whitney Crosby in the first 2 games, and then around with 20 minutes or so left, you would bring in McKenna Shea, and she would finish out the game. But on Saturday, you decided to give McKenna the start and keep her in for the entire game. What went into that decision to go with one netminder for the full 60 minutes?
Honestly, those two have always been kind of neck and neck. And we just decided we're going to see who does better on warm-ups and go with that. I think also we just put in this new defense, and it's a defense that I really think McKenna can shine in. Whitney's right there on her tail, but McKenna has always been more active, and the defense that we play is high pressure, trying to create a lot of turnovers. So we knew that she would do really well in it, and she did. I mean, I think she caused 2 turnovers herself, went for a third. But so that was really great to see. But we tell them, like, never settle because you're neck and neck with each other. So we'll see who we start on Wednesday.
Yeah. How come? And that must be it's a good problem to have when you have 2 goaltenders that you can rely on and you can trust. How comforting is that to have both Crosby and Shea as reliable netminders for you?
It's great. I mean, they're 2 very different players, but I think that's awesome because, like I said, if we're running one defense, we can put one in. We run a different defense. Maybe we put the other one in. I think also compared to last year when they had a field player in the goal, it's very comforting for the entire team to have not 1 but 2 players who have actually played goalie before in the net. So that's definitely given our defense some confidence as well.
You held Senior Day on Saturday and honored your 6 seniors. Maggie Roscoe, Sam Coffey, Summer Cavey, Winan Walters, Stephanie King, and Lindsay Coleman. Of course, you've only been their head coach for a short time, but in your experience with those 6, what have they meant to you, your program, and just how have they helped out this team over their time here?
They've been phenomenal, I think, since we first came in. They welcomed us with open arms, and they just want to win. And I think they knew that if they bought into us, that, there are going to be things they like and things they don't like, but we all have the same goal. So they've been great kind of getting the rest of the team on board with stuff that we're doing. And, they work hard. I mean, it would be easy as a senior to be like, okay, this is our 3rd coach in 4 years. We're just going to ride it out. But they're all in, and it's been great.
Busy week for you. You have 2 games this week. Alderson brought us Wednesday and then Notre Dame this weekend. What's the preparation going to be like heading into these 2 games this week?
So we're going to do some scout, obviously, for both teams, but we're really going to focus on us fixing the things from, our last 3 games. Like I said, we put in a new offense and a new defense on Friday, so got to definitely work some of those kinks out. But like I told them before the Wilmington game, I was like, I don't care who's on the field. We need to worry about us, and if we play our game, we'll win. And so that's going to be the focus moving forward. Obviously, we got to know what other teams are doing, but as long as we do our job, we should win.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you. Great win this past Saturday, getting number 1 on the board for 2021. And looking forward to the games this week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Next up here on the Bobcast is both cross country and track and field. Head coach Shane Brookshire had a busy weekend. He joins us now. Coach, the cross country teams at the MEC Championships this past weekend, and at the same time, track and field over in Morgantown competing there. We'll start with the cross country team, but this is just one of the oddities of this spring, this season that has had to be scheduled this way because of the pandemic and having cross country and track and field working simultaneously, and of course you being the coach of both programs, having to kind of, obviously you can't be 2 places at once, but how was it managing that, having to deal with your cross country team competing for MEC positioning and then the MEC championships, and then your track and field team competing at the same time?
I mean, it was definitely weird for me because I've never missed a track meet before, and I'm grateful for all my assistants because obviously without them, it wouldn't have been possible at all to give these athletes an opportunity to compete at West Virginia University. And so I'm extremely grateful for all of my assistants, just being able to trust them to carry on the meet without me having to be there exactly and stuff. And so we got a few things coordinated beforehand, and then they took care of it themselves, and they had an exciting weekend. Overall between both cross country and track, it was an extremely successful weekend, for everybody. So, the results that we got out of that track meet were phenomenal.
We'll start with, you're exactly right. Some good finishes there for track and field, which we'll get to. I want to start with the MEC Championships for cross country, and in particular Braxton Clark and Hannah Muir, who both got all MEC honors at the meet. Clark came in 10th, top Bobcat finisher. He got first team, all MEC honors. Muir, the top women's finisher for your side, second team, all MEC honors. What impressed you about them and how they performed?
Well, Braxton made it his goal from the last conference championships for cross country when he got 20th and was second team all conference. From that point, he made it his goal to be first team all conference. And the whole year leading up to this, that's what he's been wanting to do. And so he put in the mileage. I mean, we upped his mileage to over 100 miles a week during the summer. I think he averaged about 97 during the winter. He was also running upwards of 100 to 120 miles a week throughout winter break. Came in, we kept his mileage up, and I keep telling him that this is because of him. He made that commitment to get to that next level, and it definitely paid off. A lot of the coaches in the MEC were coming up to me afterwards, congratulating me on his performance because he just jumped 10 spots in 1 year. If we ran on a faster course, on a more normal course, then I think he would have been under 25 minutes for the 8K for sure. And so he was about 15th place before the mile, and then just kept slowly moving up. Has a little bit of rivalry with a guy from DNE going on. They keep tending to be switching spots back and forth, and so he caught that guy and caught another and placed 10th overall. And he was ecstatic, and I was ecstatic for him. And then same thing with Hannah, coming in as a first year. Her first race ever for a 6K, and it's on one of the toughest courses in Division II. I wasn't counting her places during the race. I really didn't have like high expectations at all. It was just like, let's get out there, let's get a feel for the course. And because like with all my distance athletes, we've been more focused on track, and so we haven't really been doing cross-country type workouts. So I don't really feel like we were as prepared for this course, but that was because we're more focused on winning conference on the track side. And she got in there, and I just tried to hang with people, and I told the women before the race, I was like, just beat somebody. And so she got in there, and after the race, I found out, saw the results about 20 minutes later, and saw that she was 19th, and I was shocked, because I wasn't counting the places. But to come in there as a first-year athlete on a course that's tougher than any course in the country, and place top 20 right away, I mean, I think that she's going to have a great career here.
And this was, as we've talked about over the last several weeks, this was an odd season for cross country, not only because you were competing the same time as track and field, and obviously you have runners on both, but the fact that you only had one meet prior to this MEC championships. These MEC championships was at the other meet was at D&E a couple weeks back. So one meet really to tune up to compete for conference for conference honors and whatnot. When you consider that, and these runners also having to train for track, like you said, and not being able to just focus on one, how much does that step up how proud or how impressed you are with how your runners did for this MEC meet? Because like I said, not a lot of tune-up time with specifically cross-country meets leading up to this, and obviously having to balance two sports simultaneously.
I mean, I told the team afterwards that they made it a special season, even with just two meets. And I mean, that D&E meet couldn't be more opposite of the conference meet, with being a 5K and completely flat. So it was a very special season for us, because not just with how they performed and how they handled the conference meet, but just the fact that we got to compete and have going through all the testing that we're doing, all the COVID check-ins, doing everything that we have to do to be at these competitions. I told the team is an accomplishment in and of itself, but the way that they performed, and I mean, on the men's side, we still got fifth place like we did last year, but we closed that gap on West Liberty. We finished 21 points behind them. Last year, we were upwards of close to 50 points behind them. And so, the team as a whole, greatly improved and had a lot of standout performances. Even Devin Horseman Guy moved up 22 spots from last year. And Daniel Foster ran about the same place that he was last year. And then we had Brennan Tomasoni moved up about 18 or 15 spots from last year. Justice Lee Provost and Cole Morgan are two freshmen that did extremely well, and Justice has been this was the first meet that he was cleared to compete in and stuff, so he didn't even get to run in another meet, and he still was our number 3 guy. And so, like I said, that was extremely special there. And then on the women's side, with Isabel Pereira, she improved her time by 1:47 on this course from last year. And then Haley Benedictus and Emily Fierro just came out, and they gave their incredible effort at the meet. And I mean, this was their first semester running for us, and so they haven't had much time to prepare either. So I think with how they've handled it, with only having 2 meets, and how challenging that course is, and all the COVID testing, focusing on more track style of training rather than cross-country style of training. I mean, their great performances this weekend just made it an incredibly special meet for us.
Let's flip to track and field now and how they competed at Morgantown over the weekend. They fared very well. I mean, a couple of wins, 16 top 5 finishes. Mark Vaughns won the 400 hurdles. Alyssa Mulry won the triple jump. Just obviously you weren't there. I mean, obviously having to be at cross country, but still just kind of looking at how your team performed from over the weekend at West Virginia. What were your impressions of that?
Oh, I was following the live results, like just refreshing them all the time, and like texting my assistants, like when I saw something great. And so, like Mark running 57.65 in the 400 hurdles. It's his second race at the college level for that, and so he PR'd there, and he actually he did the 4x1, he did the 400 hurdles, he pole vaulted, and then he stepped in as an alternate for our 4x4 that night too. And so he had a busy day, and he got a fast split in the 4x4 as well, like when we needed him to. So that was huge there. Alyssa Mullery, straight out of Fort Hill, she did well for us last year in indoors, and now she's just continuing that success for outdoors this year. And now there's only been a couple girls that have jumped. A couple women that have jumped the triple jump this year, but right now she's at the top of the conference in the triple, and she's with her performance in the 100 hurdles this past weekend, where she ran 15:41. She's at the top of the conference in the 100-meter hurdles, and so she's doing extremely well. I think that she's got a chance to be a conference champion in both of those events, and which would be huge for our women's team. So, and then we had some other great performances with Molly Wagner, first-year athlete that ran 12.98, and she's been she dealt with her own share of struggles with injuries coming out of high school. That it's great to see her running faster times again, and I believe she's currently ranked in the conference 6th in the 100 and 6th in the 200. Nick Richardson, he PR'd in both the 100 and the 200 this weekend with his 10.92 and 22.19, and Nathaniel Messi running 50.67 in the 400. As a first-year athlete, his first Open 4, that's a fantastic start. And so to see all these great performances, so as I was following it on the live results feed, I talked last time about how I've got a lot of great seniors that are going to score a lot of points for us on the throw side, and they're going to move on, but we kind of got this changing of the guard of where we do have a lot of young athletes on our team that are also stepping up and are going to score a lot of points for us at conference, and so it just presents us with a great future ahead for the track and field program.
Look at the field events too, and I mean John Kearns always seems to perform well in that department. 3 top 5 finishes for him. Runner-up in shot put, 3rd in the hammer, and 4th in the discus for him on Saturday. What were your thoughts about how John performed?
Well, I said it's the throwing events are so technical, and that just the little things can shorten your throw. And so I know after talking with Coach DeMarcus, who's our throws coach, so I know the throwers weren't too happy with how they performed, but so this is only their second competition in 2 years for outdoor. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of that rust, and so my main message to them is just more so about hey, let's knock that rust off. We got plenty of opportunities to compete this year to get back into that groove, and sometimes you're going to have those off days, and for John and Mike, an off day is still a lot of people's best days, right, and stuff. So I said, even if they have an off day at the conference meet, they're still going to perform extremely well. And so I said that right now it's just about what we can throw, what we can run, and the marks, trying to get as good marks as possible to set us up for conference. But so they've got so they're competitors, and both John and Mike, and so they want to perform, like they want to throw PRs every time they step out like into the ring and stuff. And so I think that they still performed really well. It was a long day for the throws too. Like they started at 10 a.m. and they didn't get done till I believe after 7 o'clock at night. And so it's not like it was kind of condensed down. Like they were going the entire day, and that will wear someone out as well. But I said it is, all in all, I think like they performed extremely well.
So cross country's in the books, track and field now in full swing. You're a couple meets in. Nothing this weekend, but you're back in Morgantown a couple weekends from now on the 2nd of April. How are you going to prepare? What goes into these next couple weeks getting ready for that meet?
Well, for the cross-country athletes, it's recovery.
Yeah.
Like this course, like I said, it's no joke, is the toughest course in Division II. Like it's way tougher than anything else I've ever seen or been around. And so talking with other coaches in the conference, they've had athletes that they had to hold out at cross-country regionals before. So it's about recovery for them and getting them prepared, and ready to run fast again at West Virginia. For all of our other athletes, like all the track athletes, so it's just once again working on what can we do better next time. And so what do we need to work on, whether that's from a mental standpoint, not letting bad performances affect the rest of our day, or if it's more of a actual physical, technical aspect of it. So whether it's just little things that they need to work on within the pole vault or within the jumps, within the hurdles, it's how can we get better the next time we go out. And next time will be a little bit unique too, because we'll be at West Virginia on April 2nd, and then we're turning around and we're going to West Liberty on April 3rd.
Right.
And so we're going back-to-back days, and could give an opportunity for athletes to be a little bit fresher for other events. But this is going to be a good simulation for conference on having to compete at a high level on back-to-back days. So that's we're going to be looking forward to seeing how the team handles that, and just a little bit more mental preparation for when we get to the end of the season. But as of right now, I think that we're sitting in a pretty good spot, and just excited to now focus on one sport
right
for 6 weeks. So
you relax a little bit more.
Yeah, a little less stress right now. So just focusing on one meet now. So,
that'll definitely be a welcome. Just kind of take it down a notch and focus on one area. That'll be great. So, but Coach, congrats on a great weekend, very successful weekend for both programs, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Tennis is up next here on the Bobcast, and head coach Jeff Splinter joins me next. Coach, a couple matches for you this weekend. A home match for the first time in a while for you on Saturday against West Liberty, and then travel to Charleston on Sunday to take on Charleston on the road there. Just your overall takeaways from this past weekend. Busy weekend for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great test for us. Charleston being at the top of the conference in the preseason rankings is giving us a great opportunity at the beginning of the season, where we need to be, where we need to go. And West Liberty was a close match. I know some scores weren't exactly where they wanted to be, where we wanted them to be, but overall our players played outstanding. Our men and our women felt like we had our best match day performance that we've seen yet. I know we do a lot of simulated matches amongst the team, and just playing a different team was fantastic for just getting out the nerves, figuring out what we're trying to do out there, and came away really confident going into future matches that we're playing the way we need to beat the teams that we can compete with.
Good showing on Saturday from Shea Prywazerski in her singles match. She lost 6-4, 6-2, but really battled in each of those sets. What were your impressions of her performance?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway with Shea is she's finally figured out how she's conducting every point. So She's got a great game plan of what she's trying to do in singles, and for her, she's got one heck of a serve, so it's really making sure she can capitalize off of that. And her opponent were tied up that entire first set, going 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, and then at the end there, her opponent pulled away and got the last game. But she's right there. She's giving herself opportunities every game and setting herself up with easy volleys and overheads, which is exactly what we're practicing. So she's really listening and really taking her time out there in the matches to where the match is almost slowing down and she's playing exactly how she wants to.
Also, a great match on Saturday from Origin Greer, who fell in 3 sets, captured that second set 6-4. It was a 6-3, 4-6, 10-4 loss for him, but a great performance from him. Also had a good showing in his match on Sunday, and really an exciting and a good showing in the top performance that we saw from the men over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Origin, it's really exciting because he's only a first-year player. He's only a freshman here, so he's really starting to come into his own, gathering a lot more confidence after the Charleston invite. Kind of really took it personally with some of the guys he played from Charleston who he felt like he was better than, and wanted to come out and prove himself this weekend. And really close match with the guy from West Liberty. And he was kicking himself. He didn't win that match. He put out one heck of a performance that second set. He was down, I think, 4-1, 4-2. Comes back and wins the rest of those games that set, and was just on a roll. And then in the tiebreak, we tighten up and we start hitting differently, start getting a little bit tired. But it was really, really exciting seeing him play against really two. The guy he played on Sunday against Charleston is one of the best in conference. So, and maybe even the South Atlantic region. So, seeing him compete on a point-by-point basis and knowing, he's 2 years younger than that guy, I think is giving him a lot of confidence and, really giving the whole team confidence because they're really bouncing off of each other with all the energy they're giving to one another on the court. So, just a really exciting day for him, and for him and Jeff playing in doubles was really good to see on Saturday. We mixed some things up on Sunday, but I think the men's team and the women's team really looking forward to future matches.
Betsy Hixson also on Sunday had a good performance in her singles match. She won 3 games in the first set of her match against a tough Charleston opponent, as you touched on earlier. What did you see from Betsy and her performance?
Yeah, it was Betsy's birthday yesterday, so she was playing super excited and kind of just free. One thing I just really noticed it right away in doubles, where her and Robbie at second doubles, I believe it was 6-0, but they played great, and you could see that she was really consistent in doubles, and that was going to carry over into her singles match play. And just the confidence she was hitting with, and she was up that first set, I think 3-1, and her opponent came back, but the first part of that first set she was on fire, hitting every shot cross court for winners, and setting herself up at the net, and really hitting a lot of first serves in play, which is something we really touch on. So I think she might have tired it out a little bit towards that second set, but really gave a lot of energy into doubles in that first set, which was really nice to see from Betsy.
This was, or Saturday in particular, it was your first home match in over a year, and you only got to play at home once last year as well. So it hasn't been too many times you've been able to play on your home courts here at Frostburg in recent years. So how welcome was it to finally be able to play on your home courts, be able to get up on a match day, be able to stay home and kind of dial it back and be a little bit more comfortable playing at home? How was that?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I think, we've only played one Mountain East opponent. That was really our first Mountain East match too, on the men's side. And the women played at the Morgantown site last year. So, yeah, I mean, waking up and just coming to the courts feels great. You know, you don't have to be on the bus for 3.5 hours going to Charleston. But we played great. We looked amazing. You know, the best part about being at home in Frostburg is there's a little bit extra wind that not a lot of other teams have to deal with. So that's part of our home court advantage. It's something, you know, we practice in every day, so it's nothing new. Actually going down to Charleston on Sunday felt really weird. You know, it was 75 degrees, sunny, and like 1 to 2 mile an hour winds.
Yeah.
You know, the other team is complaining about wind, and here we are like, you feel wind? There's nothing here. So
you just become numb to it at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, that's part of our home court advantage. We had quite a bit of parents out there as well, which was really nice on the lawn, supporting our team. And because our women and men were playing separately, it gave the men's team a jolt hearing all the women in the crowd, and the women's team a jolt in singles hearing the men kind of out there supporting them. So, you know, that's something that we want to continue as well. As, you know, we're one team, one fight, so we want to make sure we're always supporting each other. But yeah, it was great to have a match back out in those courts, and you know, we have, I think, one of the best facilities in the Mountain East, and you know, we love to host other teams and kind of show off our facilities a little bit. So yeah, we're excited to have home games, and hopefully looking forward to having some more here.
Yeah, and you touched on it a second ago, being at home, having fans back, and you mentioned the parents showing up and the other teams, whether it's the men playing, the women watching, women playing, the men watching, getting that support. What's that like for the players, getting what you, like you said, that extra jolt? Because I passed through about midway through your match the other day, and there was a lot of support there for your players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really helps calm down nerves. You know, hearing someone supporting you, winning or losing a point, really makes you move on to the next one, win or lose. And it's just, yeah, really exciting to have something to play for, you know, where you know your team has your back no matter what, and whether you make a mistake or not, you know, I think that's the biggest thing. Is it's so much easier to move on to the next one when you still got someone cheering for you. You know, just having the parents there is a great support system. You know, I know a lot of them bring snacks and things for the team, so that's always exciting. You know, donuts, whatever they have, the team really appreciates it. So, you know, I think we have a great support system with a lot of our parents, and, you know, we're really excited that they're back and on campus.
2 more matches for you this weekend, both on the road at Davis and Elkins and West Virginia State. What's the preparation going to be like heading into another busy weekend?
Yeah, no, we are going to take an off day today and then fully recover. And then we're going to be putting ourselves right back into match situations from Tuesday to Thursday. So we know exactly what we want to work on after this past weekend, and we're going to capitalize and tighten up some things. And we're looking at 2 really competitive matches this weekend for the men and the women. So, you know, we're really trying to come home with a win or 2. That's the goal, and we're going to try our best, and we're going to play our best, and, you know, with whatever we got that day.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you heading through this weekend and the rest of the season. Always appreciate you coming on the Bobcast.
All right, thanks. Go Cats.
Next year on the Bobcast is women's soccer, and I'm here with head coach Brian Parker off a 2-0 loss on the road on Friday against Wheeling. Hosting Notre Dame this Friday back home at Bobcat Stadium for your crew. Just want your overall thoughts. First loss of the season against a tough Cardinal team.
Not the best Friday night in front of the goal for us, obviously. You know, we're going to make defensive mistakes. You know, we're going to allow opportunities. I think no one expects to play a perfect game, you know, of course. And it's a disappointing that we're not scoring right now. I feel like we have a lot of talented players and pretty good pace, but I don't know if we're, you know, you know, this is one of those moments you get to just kind of reflect. You know, are we overcoaching them, overtraining them? Are we making it too complex? You know, I think some of the theme this week will be to just sort of simplify things and
just let our players play and just kind of certainly have a mental reset, I think, going into the second half of the season. But where we are now in the first half, we played 2 great games against the 2 other supposedly best teams in our group, and feel pretty good about where we are, but definitely have hit a little stumbling block.
Yeah, it's strange because looking a couple games back at the Alderson-Broadus game where you had 45 total shots, 13 of them were on goal, and then similar story here where you outshot Wheeling 18-10 and 10-5 in shots on goal, yet still unable to find the back of the net. Only found the back of the net once against AB, and that was early in the game off a corner. Can you attribute it to the lack of just cashing in on these chances? Can you attribute it to anything, or is it just kind of luck not necessarily going your way?
Well, you make your own luck. I don't like to say that, fortune plays a big role, but, we made some errors Friday that we don't normally make. Like we made errors Friday night I don't even see in training, so it was a little bit odd. And there was nothing absolutely unusual about the game. I mean, they had some animated fans that some of us might have been distracted by, but we expected that, and that was not an issue. Field was great. They were highly motivated, and obviously had us scouted and had athletes in the back, and their goalkeeper had a fantastic game, and it was credit to them. It was kind of an inspiring moment for them. I always kind of point out sometimes to my team that we're becoming a big game for people in the MEC, and when you see that massive celebration on just a random regular season game, I mean, obviously they haven't won in a while, but they act like they won the World Cup, and that's an odd kind of compliment to your team. You never want to get beat by somebody, and they're just like, see you next time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, in a way, an odd kind of compliment, but no question that I'll take those stats in most of our games all year long and have a feeling that, balls will go in the net. I always laugh about how I was speaking to a volleyball coach here years ago, and he was telling me about how, the second set, or the second, what they call the game sets, I guess, right, in volleyball. So second set, they were just awful and had no momentum, and the team was dominating them, and he called a timeout. And he's like, for 30 minutes, we couldn't do anything. We were awful. And I was like, man, if we're awful for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, we make a mistake, a game has changed. And I said, what a luxury to call timeouts, and be right there in the face of your players and be able to talk to them. And, so in soccer, it's obviously a little different. All coaches, I think, to be completely honest, kind of overstate their influence. And I love watching the basketball tournament and right now in March Madness, and the coaches are going off. But, someone makes a mistake, well, they sub them immediately, talk to them, make them watch. Like rewards and punishments immediate, And, of course, they're talking constantly to the players. They can bring the players over almost any time, really. So I'm a little bit, I guess, jealous of that maybe, but also it means you have to empower your players to ride through momentum shifts, good and bad, and kind of have leaders on the field. And we train those leaders. We rehearse those things, and we empower our players to coach each other. It's kind of one of the things we say at the beginning of the season, that everyone kind of agrees to be coached and coach each other and accept it and not take things personally. But, we obviously had a mistake on that corner kick, and the girl tapped it in, and it's kind of deflating. So you're looking for your leaders to respond. And, I honestly think I would love to see like a possession stat from that game. I feel like we had the ball, maybe 75, 80% of the time. We did a lot of things really well. And it is a little frustrating in soccer when you do so many things well and you just don't get the result. So the performance level is not bad at all. It's just we're just not cashing in, and it is a little bit frustrating. And so, we'll probably take 1,000 shots this week and feel and see and hear the ball go in the goal a lot, and just break through it. It happens, and it's not a shock.
No, it's definitely that strange aspect of the game that sets soccer apart from everything else. Like you said, that 10 seconds of a breakdown defensively or whatever it may be can just totally flip a game on its ear. But some of your leaders, one that's already been established within this program for several years, is Audra Curtin on the front of your attack. And then the new face is Lexi Pate, who we've talked numerous times about throughout this season so far. The two of them have really seemed to struck up some chemistry through the first half of this season. They created several chances. on Friday night. Of course, none of them were able to find the back of the net. But it seems like they've become pretty comfortable playing with each other. Would you agree?
Yeah, and they're they've established themselves, I think, with their the consistency and quality of their performances, that they're going to get a lot of minutes and get a lot of chances, and different kinds of players, of course. I guess they're maybe similar size. They're both pretty good, strong kids, but Pate's a little bit more of the pacey runner, and just a little bit more of a hold-up player, a target type player. And they do play off each other very well, and they've been a joy to watch. It's so it's always funny how you talk about the sort of performance pressure that's on the players. And I always joke with strikers all the time that you're going to you might take 8 shots in this game, and you're going to miss the first 7. And then the 8th one is the one that makes you the hero of the game. But we're going to let you miss 7 shots, and you're going to play and be fine with it. You have to roll through that and just make sure you're recovering and staying positive, because if you don't get the 8th chance, we aren't going to win the game. So, if you let the 6th or 7th chance just bury you emotionally, mentally, we're not going to win games. So they're experiencing some of that rough and tumble, cycle through good and bad results, really. I think, like I said, the performance level has been good, but I think it's a fun challenge in a way. I mean, obviously, we'd love to learn lessons and still get results, which I think we maybe did a couple times early this year. But I like the quality of our team, and those 2 players are a good example.
You're halfway through your schedule already, which is weird to think with this shortened spring season. But what's your assessment so far? 4 games down, you still have 4 to go. Where is your team right now based on your perspective?
Well, it's funny, if you ask the players, sometimes I'm sure they'll say they feel like we've been here for a year already, with all the testing protocols, and, there's a lot of pandemic fatigue going around in the country. But the once-a-week schedule does make the season seem a little longer, because it is a while. You get that long full-week cycle between contests, which, again, has merit, but it does kind of feel like we've been at it a long time. To say we've only had 4 games is kind of stunning to hear, to be honest. But of course, we're in the driver's seat in our conference, and we feel good about it. And that's what's going to be so fun about the format we're in, is you get to play everybody twice. So who has survived is the first question. Does everybody still have everybody available, right? And the quality of their roster is essentially the same. Some could be better, some could be worse, depending on how they've handled COVID and injuries and other issues. But then, of course, what have you learned from the first matchup, and what's that second cycle sort of gonna be like? So Notre Dame is the other sort of non-division, I'm not sure how you describe it, with the 3 divisions in soccer, opponent that we won't see again. But obviously we've scouted them and we've seen them play, and so another good, feisty, physical team that'll be a challenge to us. But I'm pretty happy about where we are, and it's a good week. First week of spring, beautiful weather, halfway through the season, to just take a deep breath and have kind of a mental reset, and that's I think where we're. You always want to take the good with you and kind of leave the bad behind. So we're going to learn from the things we can learn from, and just move on and get better every week.
You brought up the Notre Dame game. That's your opponent on Friday at Bobcast Stadium, another home game for your team. You touched on it a bit, but what challenges do the Falcons present, and how can you make some adjustments this week to get ready for that game on Friday?
Well, again, I think I don't know if any team sports coach in the country doesn't want to, at any level, doesn't want to play the way they want to play, and obviously force opponents to adjust. So, I mean, we expect to have the ball plenty, and we expect to be able to connect passes. I think one of the interesting things, I guess you see this in basketball too, is they're even with us in a lot of ways. We split with them last year. They got good athletes. Mm-hmm. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna be good. They're not gonna change much for us, which is kind of good. Like, they're not going to be in a defensive posture and be putting lots of numbers behind the ball. They're going to come out and pressure us and play. And honestly, we kind of look forward to that after the couple weeks we've had to play a game that's going to be a little bit more open, a little bit more end-to-end, give us a few more transition opportunities than we've had the last couple of weeks. So I think it's a good test. It's going to be a good week and a good game. Obviously, nice to play at home, and now we can welcome our friends and family to watch us play. So looking forward to it.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you this week against Notre Dame, and thanks for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thanks very much. Don't let that sun hurt you.
Oh, not at all.
Take care.